Jules, please join me to the stage. Julie Mohr, Forrester Analyst. There you go.
Wow, how exciting is it to be here? I'm recovering from a cold, so if my voice gets a little hoarse, I apologize. I can't think of two better topics for me to be talking about, generative AI and knowledge management. I mean, this is a ridiculously exciting time for knowledge workers. I've been doing knowledge management for a long time, and the hype and the interest about this is really exciting. But the possibility for new technology innovations is even more powerful. So I'm going to start with a question. Where are you going to be in the next 5 years? How will your organization capitalize on these amazing innovations? And how are you going to help your customers thrive? Now, this all started with the need for speed. Organizations found that if they could not change fast enough to meet the changing needs in their market, that they very quickly would be behind their competitors. So the need for speed is something that changed many of the operating models that had existed in organizations for a considerable length of time. Fail fast. Experimentation became the norm, right? Instead of relying on policy and processes and very strict models of operation, we recognize that if we don't move quickly, sometimes that means trying new things, failing, recovering, and moving on. Now, the systems of record that we have, that we're doing most of our work on, have got to evolve in order to support organizations in these agile working methods. The role of collaboration is incredibly important. It needs to be at the center of that platform. If someone in the sales department identifies an issue when they're out working with a customer, shouldn't that automatically flow back to the development teams where they now realize, wow, we have a new feature that we could roll out, or we have something that we need to fix? And that's what collaboration is about. It's making these connections across the enterprise, right? No longer can we just work in our own isolated silo. And there are two incredible enablers to this new way of working: knowledge management and AI. And I say AI in general because AI has been doing a lot for us before generative AI became this new thing to talk about. So it's the combination of AI, machine learning, predictive analytics, and as well the generative AI. Now, when I look in my field that I've been studying for years, and I think about what I've always seen as a model for knowledge management, it looked a lot like this. It was a waterfall methodology to doing knowledge management. Who here likes writing knowledge articles? Right? Probably not many of you. The ones that do, we can have drinks afterwards because, you're my people. But for most people, this was difficult to do. And so we would say, oh, when I get around to it. And then because you're a technical person, they needed to add technical editors in there to make sure that you were writing everything correctly. We went through this long process to perfect knowledge, and by the time the knowledge was published, it was no longer needed in the environment because everything had changed. So this need for speed drove a need for a different way to look at knowledge management. We needed agility. Instead of spending long periods of time writing articles, capture some snippet in the workflow and make it immediately available to everybody else. Because the life cycle of that little snippet is likely to be very short. So why should we spend all the time and energy to perfect it when the imperfect knowledge is good enough? Now, the really crazy thing is when you apply generative AI to this, it just accelerates that agility to the point where a lot of the work that we might think about doing in an agile knowledge management practice is actually enabled with generative AI and done for us. We can apply standards, we can create summaries, we can create metadata, we can make it easy enough for your stepfather when he says the internet's down to do his own troubleshooting, right? You don't have to be a technology person to use these systems, and you can get value from them. So what's important for all of you to focus on is building your organization's knowledge capacity. Because while we have these new and fantastic, innovative products, if you don't have knowledge, you're accelerating garbage into that system. And when we start talking about the pain points of applying generative AI and we talk about hallucinations are often caused because the data that we are using to train the LLM itself has been ignored for a very long time. There are lots of knowledge bases out there where people will go, well, I don't use it anymore. I know what's in there. I don't need it. That's an example of knowledge that if you put that into your model to train your LLM, you're going to get garbage. Knowledge is active. People are engaged in it. And if it's not active, then it's decreasing in its value over a period of time. So we need knowledge capacity building more now than ever. And it's not just making sure that the knowledge stores that we have are valuable, it's also our people. Because if you take away a lot of the rote behaviors that I do on a daily basis, how do I contribute new knowledge into that system? I have to learn new things. I have to have new skills. I have to try new projects. I have to try to that experimentation, fail fast, recover. All of that information brought into that ecosystem is incredibly powerful. And another thing, we talk about generative AI mostly from a text perspective. Summarize this, right? But the power of knowledge is meeting you where you are. I love to learn by video. I record everything that I can because when I watch a video and I see the person's look on their face and I see how they say those words, it conveys so much more than if I read it in a transcript. Or I go look at my notes, which is, just a kind of a snapshot of what occurred. So we are creating multimodal learning environments that are empowering innovation in an organization. But this doesn't just happen automatically. We have to pay attention to it. We have to curate it. We have to give our people the tools to be successful in this new wave of the knowledge economy. And that means staying ahead of the technology, learning new things, sharing new things, breaking down the barriers across the organization. So the value proposition of knowledge management has always been here. We've talked about this for decades, about how much knowledge management can do for us. The problem is we've always relied on those old ways of doing knowledge management, which didn't work. Now along comes generative AI, and the story has completely changed. I take more inquiries now about knowledge management and how generative AI can help organizations to finally get it right. And it's because of the power of its conversation. We can now propose resolutions to incidents. We can propose the next best step, right? The way in which we are incorporating this within the organization, we're building better relationships across the organization. We are transferring knowledge at the speed in which it is created. No longer asking for people in the future to, when you get time, put that into the system. And I had this epiphany because for a very long time, I used to tell everybody, forget about the technology. Knowledge management is about people, it's about practice, it's about community. And then generative AI hit, and I said, you know what? For the first time in my life, I can say that the technology can actually be an enabler to create a knowledge community. It can break down the barriers that we've traditionally had, where I was hired for what I know. I am the smartest person in the room. I don't put my knowledge into your system because if I do, you will not need me anymore. We are changing that dynamic, and we're saying you are valued in our organization because of the knowledge that you share. The more you share in this ecosystem, the more you are valued in our organization. So community is at the heart of making this successful. Traditional organizations have these silos. There's blockages all over the place. I have to get permission to go look at that file because I'm not in the group that created it, right? That stifles the sharing of information across the organization. It's just got to stop. We need communities that feel comfortable in exploring new ideas without judgment. To be able to go in and have that spark of innovation and connect with someone that may be completely on the other side of the world, but they're thinking the same things you are. That's the power of community. That's the power of connection. And that's the power of knowledge management. And we can do this today with the technologies. It's pretty crazy. Knowledge management has always traditionally been something where it's only the people that are in the know contribute the knowledge. I don't know about you, but every day I'm learning something. Every day I have the potential to spark an idea in somebody else if I just share that information. The idea that only a few people in our organization should be contributing to knowledge is a fallacy. We all should be contributing to the knowledge. So at the core of all of this is trust. You have to trust that when you put your knowledge into that system, you're not going to be one of those people in the numbers that we hear all the time. Oh, just bring in generative AI and you can get rid of 10% of your workforce. That's not what community is about. That's not what knowledge management is about. It's about empowering you to stay in that place of creativity and innovation instead of having to do all that rote work. So as leaders in organizations, you have to build this trust fabric, basically telling people, look, put your knowledge in there. We want you working on more value-added work, thinking, being creative, making connections. Who wants to put numbers in Excel and submit, expense reports? This is the mundane side of what knowledge work is required for knowledge workers, but it isn't necessarily what drives an organization to be more successful. Now, as I said earlier, there's like this barrier that you guys know it. If you've ever worked in organizations where there is a lack of trust, there's a barrier. People don't want to share their knowledge. They're afraid if they share their knowledge that someone's going to use it in a way that it wasn't intended, or they're not going to be needed in the organization. So if we can build a trust fabric from the leadership and the managers, people will begin to open up and share information. I was working at a company just before joining Forrester, and I found it very interesting. We were doing after-action reports for problem management. And I said to the team that I was working with, I said, well, I'd like to look at some of the other reports that we have in there. I can't get access to them. Oh, which one do you want to look at? And I'd give a name, and I'd look at it, right? And I'm like, this is really good work. Why are you protecting it? Why is it hidden behind, an access right or privilege? If this is the learnings about what went right, what went wrong, what do we need to improve in the first time, and you've locked it up in a PowerPoint, you haven't shared it with anybody, why did you do it? Right? Logically, I'm thinking, as a knowledge management specialist, that's knowledge. This is a fantastic opportunity for all of us to learn. But we have all these access rights and privileges that lock it down and keep it where it's supposed to be. Now, I get it. If you're talking about, exposures of data, there are certain types of retrospectives that you don't want to share because it has very sensitive information in it. But for organizations to learn, we have to reduce this layer of resistance. People should want to contribute. They should want to learn. And it's up to us to create that environment where people feel successful in doing so. Now, the power of combining knowledge management and generative AI, this is just crazy. I'm seeing things from vendors where they are creating new capabilities on their platforms that I've been dreaming about forever. Just taking a long series of transactions, right? We've been told for the last few decades, everything goes in a ticket, everything goes in a ticket. But then when you go to try to figure out what happened, it's a lot of data to kind of walk your way through to figure out what happened. Now you can just click a button and it'll give you a summary of the entire library of connected records, right? So it's the text generation, but it's also the conversational element. To be able to ask a question in your context and have a system go out and search in an environment where you have that trust, that means it's going to go find the answer no matter where it is and surface up the answer, not search results, right? Not a list of things that you have to go through and determine which is the correct one, but the answer. And we'll give you some sources to go and look at it just in case you don't trust that it's correct. But that conversational element is incredibly powerful for knowledge management. Meeting the people where they are, giving them the answers that they're looking for. Now, I'm looking forward to what comes next. Because I'd like to, if I submit a question like, hey, what's our leave policy? What I'm really asking is, do I have enough hours left and can I take a vacation, right? That's what I really want to know. But I'm asking the question the way that it's always been in our environment, which is, where's the policy so that I can read it myself? Now I can ask this bot that handles our HR stuff and say, hey, do I have enough leave to take a vacation to Italy this year? I'd like to go in June or July. Oh, and then there's a concierge agent over here that can walk me through creating all of my reservations. And oh, before you book it, let's make sure your time off request has been approved. That's a world I want to live in. That's exciting stuff. So the use cases, I know there's a lot of hype out there, and I'm an analyst, and I'm supposed to be cutting through all of this and telling you I'm on the hype. I'm loving this. Because for the first time in my career, I see the combination of knowledge and technology empowering organizations to do amazing things. And the use cases are going to be all over the place. It's not just in IT. There'll be a societal impact, the enterprise impact, your customers will be impacted by this, and every single employee. So that question I asked you earlier, where are you going to be in the next 5 years? Is this something that you want to be on board with now? Your customers are. 73% say they're adopting it. 74% say it's a positive impact. 62%, they're planning on investing more. So we've got a lot of wonderful things happening by bringing AI and advancing knowledge management in organizations. You kind of have to consider this like a fulcrum. It's moving us from where we are today into this new, I guess since we're in the knowledge economy, I guess it should be the next significant advancement in the knowledge economy. This is something that's not going to just help us achieve our outcomes, but it's going to be a catalyst for a lot of other things as we continue to see its advancements in organizations. And again, another survey. I'm making these slides available so you guys don't have to worry. You can get the data behind this. But again, another survey that we did, top use cases around employee productivity. And that makes total sense. But number 2, knowledge management. So the value proposition here, first of all, these two things combined are going to help you accomplish your business outcomes with really solid strategies, the right technologies, the people being in an environment of trust. You'll work more quickly to get towards those business outcomes. Team collaboration should be better. When you open up your knowledge and you allow that knowledge to be shared across your entire company with a simple search, you're going to get better collaboration as a natural side effect of these technologies. And of course, productivity. There's a lot of little rote behaviors, things that we're doing on a day-to-day basis that can be made better. We've seen the early use cases in marketing, in design, in sales. There's some really unique cases in operations, something that helps us. We do a lot of rote behaviors within IT operations environments as well. So just another couple data points here for you. And this one separates the generative AI discussions from conversational AI. But still very positive indicators from the people that we survey that this is an area that they're making significant investments in. And they're going to need the help of partners like all of you to help make this a reality. Resources are short. There are not a lot of people out there that really understand these technologies and how to implement them successfully in organizations. You're going to be able to help guide them. Now, I wouldn't be good at being an analyst if I didn't warn you of the side effects, right? I talked earlier about the hallucinations. We definitely have to worry about those things. These models don't have morals. You can't expect them to answer something with that morality. And for the most part, they don't know your business. And this is important. Even if you start training it on your data, if your data is flawed, it's still not something that you would want to support decisioning from. You've got to have that knowledge capacity in order to train them. In some of the early use cases, there's significant bias. You do need to be testing for that. Little things like all executives are men and all nurses are women. You know, these are the kinds of things that can creep into a system quite quickly. So to finish up, don't forget to keep your people in the loop. They're the ones that are going to help identify where knowledge sources are not working within the LLM. They're going to be able to flag knowledge and say, hey, this needs to be improved because it's not correct, especially as you begin surfacing some of that information. Think about this, the combination of knowledge management and generative AI as the knowledge workers' new superpower. I know we're all getting tired of all the hero movies, but to me, the two things combined, I'm a geek, right? That's my superpower. The training is a really important thing. There's really two ways that we're doing the training. One is to train the model, fine-tune it on our data, and the one that's most popular right now, which is RAG. Just go out and find the information, surface it, and allow the humans to evaluate it. So you're going to have to kind of pick which path you go on, but don't forget that those agents trained with your data to answer the specific questions that you do within your organization, those are where the future lie. All right, skills. I kind of talked about those earlier. I'll just brush over it here, but skills are incredibly important to this. And it's not just having the right people in your organization to make decisions. How many of you took a prompt engineering class, right? There is some magic to this. The better the prompt, the better the answers that you get. So there is a need even to train executives and common users of this within an organization. It's not just a skill set that's innate. So some last words for you as you're going out to market and you're selling this and you're trying to help your customers. This changes the way organizations work, and that's a very important message. Don't keep relying on the old business models. You need to be talking to your customers about the new ways of working, collaboration, agility, experimentation, failing fast, multimodal knowledge management, not just text. You really want to have that conversation with them that we're here to help spark creativity and create innovation within your organization. It's about moving from capturing knowledge to co-creation. It's about moving from finding information to discovery. The power of the next question. Right? Now that I've got access to this knowledge, where can we go from here? It's not about closed silos. It's about knowledge open to everyone. So at the heart of this transformation from now for the next 15 years, it's AI-powered knowledge. Please connect with me. Use the little code over there. It's on LinkedIn. We do publish from time to time public information from Forrester, and so if you're connected with me, that'll come up in your feed, and I can share it with you that way. But thank you so much for having me here today, and rock it. Next up is the sheriff.